All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Danielle Rogers, creator of Warrior Women Portraits and a triple negative breast cancer survivor. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with an incredible warrior, Christine. Welcome, my dear.
Nice to see you. Thanks for chatting with me.
Absolutely. Well, we always start off this trying to get a little bit to know about you and your journey. So why don't you tell us kind of where it all began and start from there?
Sure. I went in for my standard mammogram in October 2022. And I remember leaving and thinking, like, check, that's off the list for this year, not done. And then I got the call back for further imaging and then biopsy. And my gut feeling was something was there when I went in for that biopsy. And
Yeah.
I remember my husband asking me, like, how are you feeling? Are you, and I just kept saying, if there's something there, I want them to find it. Like, I just, if there's something there, let's find it. And not, we had someone we know that it wasn't found. Maybe
Right.
it could have been found on the earlier mammogram, but it was kind of missed. And so I was just like, no, I just want
Yeah,
to have it found.
absolutely.
Right. So I was diagnosed, I think it was November when I was finally diagnosed. It was stage 0 DCIS. And, they kept telling me, this is the good kind. If you're going to have breast cancer,
Right.
this is the good kind. And I went in for that first consult with the oncologist, and she presented me with my options. And I have to say to anybody watching who, has not had options or was found at a further stage, I totally understand, sort of privileged or lucky to have options to begin with. But I remember, because everybody kept saying how this was the good kind, being presented with these options. And I'm not a crier, but I just like burst into tears in the oncologist's office because I was like, I hate all of these options. Like, all of
Right.
these options changed my life forever. Like, this is nothing about this is good. And so, yeah, it was a really hard, I think I felt fine. I think I felt like I was in the best shape of my life because I got through lockdown from the years before, just like walking, walking,
Right.
walking all day. And I
Yeah.
was just like in great shape. I felt pretty good. And it was just such a disconnect
Yeah.
to be
I
given
think
this
they
news.
I think they try and really make you kind of talk you off the ledge, right? Like it's the good cancer. And I've heard that a few times actually. And I feel like it's probably their avenue of going like, don't freak out. This is early. But internally you're freaking out.
Yes. Yes. And my mom's a nurse, and she said they're probably very excited actually because they know other people have a
Right.
harder time than you're going to have. Like, they feel hopeful for you. And so they are kind of cheerful because
Yeah.
they're like, oh, great, we caught this early, but it doesn't feel like a cheerful experience to be on the
Sure.
patient side of that. Um, so that's where things started. I was given an option at first of lumpectomy and radiation on hormone, um, endocrine therapy, um, or double mastectomy. And I appreciate my oncologist really said it's up to you, it's your choice. And I did sit with that a while. I had always thought in the past, if I ever got this diagnosis, I would like, let's just get rid of everything and take
Right.
away all the chance. But it's a very different thing to be sitting with those choices in front of you and like you're going to decide in the next couple of weeks. That's a really different thing.
Right.
So I sat with that a lot. I'm a researcher, so I just read lots of experiences. I looked at various scars from,
Right.
different surgeries and like what am I going to look like, and what if I since I have the choice. And again, that's
Yeah.
felt like a privilege in a way. So like what do I'm going to feel okay living with? And then I think one of the things that was a deciding factor is you needed an MRI to confirm that yes, this is such an early stage. And they said we don't see anything else, but also on the results that I could see in my chart, it was noted that my breasts were so dense that it was
Right.
really hard to know for sure. And I just felt like, boy, if this is going to come back, it might be hard to find. And that kind of sealed the deal for me. I felt like it was like really a peace of mind, and there's no guarantees. They tell you their
Yeah.
survival rates are similar, right? But I just wanted to feel like if it comes back, I don't want to feel like I didn't do everything I could, and
Right.
that's just how I could
You made the
sleep at
wrong
night, I guess.
choice. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like the what ifs, right? And so I totally understand that. Now, was it because you were stage 0, could they tell if it was hormone based? Okay, they could.
Yes,
Okay,
they could. It was hormone positive. Yeah.
okay,
Um, and it was so small they weren't sure if they set out for like the oncotype score would they get anything, but they could get that as well. So
okay,
yeah, yeah. And I had been taking some hormone replacement. I had had a hysterectomy a few years before,
okay.
and I guess that's another deciding factor. If anybody's like deciding out there, so I just knew I didn't feel great when my hormones were not balanced. And
Yes.
since I had the choice, I wanted to avoid working with that as since I
Yeah.
could. Yeah.
Well, and I hear people like the hormone blockers and all that stuff is actually sometimes harder to go through the symptoms of that because, there's this disconnect of you're kind of done with active treatment, yet the side effects can be even worse, aside from like losing your hair, it's more like bone pain and things like that where, it's internally, so you can't see it. Um, so yeah, that's pretty awesome that you didn't have to do that.
Right, right. So those are some of the things that, I felt like the doctors kept treating me like I was making such a extreme choice to
Yeah.
have this bigger surgery. And to me, I felt like, boy, it feels, since I have that choice, it feels more extreme to me, honestly, to change my hormones. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it didn't feel more extreme to me. So that's just my
Mhm.
experience. And everybody's got to make the choice that, sits in their
Abs-
gut well and with their own information. But
Absolutely. And it's all about, I tell people, because I know you and I are flat, we didn't reconstruct. And people are like, whoa, 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 this isn't my choice. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be your choice. We just want to make sure you know the choices, right?
right.
Because not all doctors really um, prevent. uh, what's the word? I'm sorry, chemo. I'm telling you, just giving you all the options, right? And
Right.
they just kind of, sometimes bypass that because why would we not want to have breasts? So it is not for everybody, but it's nice to be able to be like, this is an option if you so choose. Um,
Yes. Yes. And
so
my surgeon knew exactly what I was talking about when I asked for aesthetic flat closure, but it was not one of the choices that was presented to me. And
yeah,
like, if I hadn't heard about it from other places, I wouldn't have known it's an option. And I'm somebody with an autoimmune condition who like
okay,
implants are not a great choice for my body. And I use my muscles to play violin, and I didn't really want to change that. Some of the other surgeries that are available, they might take skin and muscles from other parts of your body, which is an amazing option, but
option.
I didn't want to do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and you also have to like play into like your lifestyle, right?
right.
And like what is this going to affect? Is this going to actually, shift my life value and the things that I really hold dear to my heart. So, um
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
have any history in your family about breast cancer or any cancers that,
No, no,
no?
no breast cancer history. I did do some genetic testing, and everything came back, at least what they know now
Right.
to test, it came back
Right.
negative. So I have been estrogen dominant in managing hormones because of, some hormone imbalances in my
Balances.
body. So, nobody can say for sure, but I kind of wonder if
Yeah.
that's what happened there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can what if till the sun comes down. Like, you
Yes.
just don't know. Like, was it this? Was it that?
No.
Same with myself, triple negative. They're like, I don't know what caused it. I don't know what's feeding it. And so you're just like, okay, well, now
Right.
what?
Right.
Um, so since one thing that I kind of added into this interview, especially for women that chose not to reconstruct, is how does your wardrobe change?
Mm.
Because I know my wardrobe changed. And so I'm curious if you found a certain type of top or things that fit you differently and better that you like now than you did beforehand.
Yes, that's a great question. I'll just say I was not small chested before my surgery. And so it was a big change. I've heard some of the, cancer groups I'm in, people will say like, oh, kind of all my same clothes fit, even though I went flat. And that was not like nothing fit for me at all. So,
Right.
um, I found like right after surgery and getting back to work, I think towel necks really worked well for me, or, um, wearing jackets. I think like a suit jacket type
Okay.
style. I found some that I liked and got like every color I could find because it just felt really comfortable to me to have layers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I find now I'm a little over a year out from the surgery, and some of the things I picked right after surgery, like I'm not gravitating towards, is like I feel like my style is shifting. It's not just okay, what just feels like doable, but now what do I like? So
Right. Absolutely. It's an avenue. It's really like I know I found a shirt that I liked and I bought like four in different colors and I just donated them all because I'm like, it feels like my surgery body, or like my healing body, clothing. And then I was like, okay, now what? So yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. um is there anything since you went flat that you have noticed or that you weren't aware of? I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, my belly, like, wow, where did that come from, or things like that. Was there any like shocking like body revelation that you you weren't aware about?
Oh, that's so interesting. I think I had a lot of neck and upper back pain actually,
Okay.
maybe from the kind of bras I was wearing. I don't know, but that surprised me to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, I just didn't know any different, of course, but I just felt such a relief in my shoulders and upper back. Just
Yeah.
yeah, I I think what honestly what surprises me is that yes, there was a bit of an adjustment, but I looked at a lot of pictures. I sort of prepared myself in advance,
Right.
and I actually feel very, very comfortable in my own
Awesome.
skin. Um, yeah, and you mentioned the belly. For me, I ended up having lymphedema in the trunk of my belly after surgery. I just had a couple lymph nodes removed, but that's one of the
Mhm.
side effects of the surgery for me. So sometimes my stomach really swells up, and that is, I think that's the one time when I don't feel as
Yeah.
comfortable in my own skin, and it changes, so I can't like even get adjusted to it in one
Oh,
state or
right,
another.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's always like, yeah. I,
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally understand. I didn't luckily have any lymphedema. Was it just in your stomach? Is it in your arms as well?
It's in the whole upper body, but I don't know that I would have noticed it other than my stomach. Like literally looked like I could give birth, like nine,
Yeah,
12 months pregnant, honestly, sometimes, and then
right.
fairly flat 2 days later, 5 days later. And I guess if anybody's wondering if that's them, I just took pictures at the extremes in the same clothes at the same angle to take into the
Yeah,
doctor to be, because they were like, oh, yeah, yeah, everybody thinks, their stomach's swollen. And when I could show, like, okay, this is this many days apart, same angle, same clothes, then they jumped on it and got me PT and got me a lymphedema pump machine at home. And so I will say to anybody watching, if you think you could be going through that, to really advocate for yourself in that way.
yeah.
Yeah,
What is the lymphedema pump?
it it's this looks
Is
like
it is it really complex to say?
it
I
looks
don't
like a
know.
straight jacket. Like I goes past the like I put on this jacket. My husband has to zip me in, and it goes past the end of my arms, and it has all these hoses coming off like an octopus straight jacket. I call it. It's quite the contraption, but it feels wonderful and it really helps. So
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And I can picture it, and I'm sure it's not even as funny as what I'm picturing.
yeah,
But yeah, when you go through things like this, if you find something that gives you comfort,
yes,
you'll put yourself in the most ridiculous positions, or whatever, if it really helps.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I'm grateful to have it as a resource, and that's been something that was hard. Again, like this is the easy kind of cancer. It's that's I they say this is probably a lifelong thing I'll manage, and
Right.
that's taken some coming to peace with that fact.
Yeah. I talked
Yeah,
a lot about, like, there's very much like COVID. There's always this time before COVID and the time after COVID. There's this time of cancer, before cancer and after cancer. And there's like a big, huge segregation.
yeah,
You almost feel like two different people in a way, I
yeah,
think. Because you really just start like reevaluating life and just everything when you get that diagnosis, regardless of what it is. So,
yeah, absolutely.
well, let's talk about your warrior session. I would love to know, like, how you're feeling, um, what made you sign up, and how you're feeling before you got to the studio.
Yes. Well, I saw you were doing this. We had met, and I saw that you were doing these photos, and I think at first I thought, that's great for other people. Um, but I do think the session I signed up for was on the date of the first anniversary of my biopsy. So number one, I just felt like, oh, I keep looking at this as an option of something to do, and it just felt a bit like a sign. And I knew that month was coming up for me, that it was going to bring up a lot of feelings potentially, and I wanted to put some things into that month so that sort of were positive or empowering, where I felt
Yeah,
like, okay, there's a mix of things now. There's some positive things, and there's these other things that are in the mix, but it's not all
Yeah.
trauma
I,
month or
it's
whatever.
definitely PTSD. Like
Yes.
I even relocated where I get my scans because like I went in there one time and I just started crying and they're like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "This is where I got." So I totally get that, and that's
Yeah.
awesome that you were self-aware of that. Were
Well,
you
yeah, I
nervous?
wanted, yeah, what's that?
Were you nervous?
To do the session?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I really thought about what kind of look I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I've heard some other interviews you've done, or even when you talk about it, about adopting a persona. And I thought like, oh, maybe I did it wrong because I really didn't think about adopting a persona, but I just thought about like, how do I want to look on the outside, maybe how I felt internally. Like I had been through this thing. I'm
Yeah.
still, going to be going through this thing. Like you said, this is just kind of changes us.
Yeah.
And I wanted like some picture that captured how I had felt internally. So that's
Yeah.
how I approached it.
No, that's awesome. Honestly, I always tell people, I'm like, whatever avenue gets you to what your vision is, then absolutely run with it because there is no right or wrong way to go about it. It's just whatever makes you get into that mindset, right? So, you definitely came with your look, which it was amazing. I love when people are prepared and they're like, "This is what I want." And so, how'd you feel about putting on your makeup?
I really liked that process. And I think the whole thing was very empowering. I felt I'm not, I mean, I will use a little makeup, but I'm not a big makeup person. And so I felt a little bit like I'm not sure I'm going to make this look any good, but you had a lot of tools there and ideas. I did come with a picture that I was going to try to use as inspiration or even just copy
Yeah,
like paint by number to see if I could recreate
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I felt like the whole experience, I will say I left and it felt so empowering that after I remember like a week later being like, oh yeah, and I get pictures afterwards to look at because I even like that wasn't even
Yeah.
didn't even
Yeah.
feel like the
No.
point anymore. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That is so cool. And yeah, you nailed it. You killed it. And we had a lot of fun that day.
yeah.
So how did you feel about seeing your pictures? I know we're our worst critic. And I always tell the ladies, be gentle with yourself. We're our worst critic. No body shaming. We can like or dislike, but so how did you feel?
No, I loved it. I love them. I mean, there was certain ones where I was like, oh my, I'm making a goofy face. Like the pose looks strong. I'm making this goofy face, but that's fine. Like it was like an outtake, I guess. So there was, yeah, definitely a few of them where like really captured what I was going for. And like, okay, that captures how I feel and how I felt internally and like puts into a picture something I can't maybe explain if I'm telling somebody what I've gone through. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Now, what are
yeah.
you going to do with the pictures?
That I've just been a couple weeks maybe since I've seen
Yeah.
them. So I'm kind of thinking about where I would like to print a couple off and put in the house. We have a home gym. So
Okay.
we thought about, will we put some there? So I'm thinking about that, but I would like to make a small book or a collage of some of them.
Yeah,
And it's a really good reminder. It's easy to think
absolutely.
back over many years for people and think of all the hard things, but
Yeah,
I want to have in the mix there a feeling of like, okay, I'm still here. I'm
absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're tackling it. We're getting after it. Totally.
yeah.
So I know you have children and grandchildren. So how do you feel about having those in your home and them seeing them?
No, I feel great about that. I think we come from a family of very strong women, so I don't,
Great.
this is just sort of, I don't think it's going to feel out of character or, um,
No, and
yeah,
honestly, I find it as more of giving them permission to feel strong themselves, right? Like my mom is like a warrior and my grandma was like that almost gives them permission to feel strong themselves. And at least that's how I envision it.
right,
Um, and then
right.
also just being there to remind us, on those not so good days, because we do have them. I mean, everybody has them, to be honest, um, but yeah, that's awesome. Is
Yeah.
there anything else that you would like to say about the session before we move on?
I really like that you team people up with other
Yeah,
breast cancer survivors. That was really a great experience because I think I was less self-conscious about how am I gonna, it wasn't about the picture taking really, or just we were sharing our stories, you were sharing your story, and it
Yeah.
felt very like, oh, we're in this together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
But
find
I
it
think,
is, it's, I feel like it's kind of like the beginning of a slumber party, right? Where you're like, everybody's just talking and you're just like, just having fun. And by the time we get to the pictures, then it's like, oh yeah, we have pictures still to do. And you're already comfortable and, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I was hoping to get. So I'm really glad that that's how you felt.
yes, no, that was great. That really helped. Yeah. Keep it relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I always like to end the calls with something positive that has come out of cancer. I feel like we can at least find one thing, if not a whole lot. So, what might have been at least one of yours?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important to think about. I think, we don't always have to put a silver lining on everything, but I heard an interview once with somebody who said, if you're going to go through hell, then come out with something good in your hand on the other side. And I really
Yeah,
like that because it's not like I don't have to turn my experience into like, oh, but in the end this was good, but like what good did
right.
I bring out with me? So I always think of it from that perspective. But for me, I noticed just the support network I actually have, but maybe didn't appreciate that I had. And I feel more comfortable maybe helping other people than them helping me. And it was humbling in a way, but also just reminded me like, okay, you have a lot of people around you
Yeah,
that will show up when you need them. That was really, really powerful. And then I think also just remembering what's important. I like to do a lot of things and go, go, go. And I had this long period of time where I really couldn't do anything. And I had to decide what do I put back in my life after I'm
yeah,
up for more. And I think that really helped me. There's many things that maybe I love to do, but I just don't need to do it all. And I can
yeah.
maybe have a little more balance to my life. And I think that in the end is a very positive outcome for myself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Clarity, right? The clarity
Right.
that a diagnosis brings to your life. Yeah, that's actually one thing that I wish I could actually gift people. Just that clarity that something scary like this brings to the table. Um,
Right.
so yeah. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your story and your experiences. I do appreciate it. And I'm sure lots of other women watching these videos feel the same way. We're all different. We all have different situations. They're all valid. Um, and so great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening. And we'll be talking to the next warrior here real soon. Talk to you later, guys.